You probably saw the thumbnail of my 2024 Harley-Davidson Road Glide. Well, I'm not in front of that. I'm in front of my 2005 Harley-Davidson Road King, which I call Memphis. On this 2005 Harley-Davidson Road King, it has a Zippers Performance 95 muscle kit on it. But it used to be an 88, and the 88 cubic inch motor, it was lacking power, right? It had like, I think, 58 horsepower, 80 foot-pounds of torque. Today's standard with the new motorcycles, take for example the 2024 Harley-Davidson Road Glide with a 117 on it, has around 98 horsepower and 113 foot-pounds of torque. Well, even with the 107s having 78 horsepower with 103 foot-pounds of torque, this motorcycle was lacking. You couldn't keep up with the motorcycles up to date. And it would run 80 miles per hour on the interstate, but it took a long time to get there. So if you had an older bike and you wanted to ride with people, there was nothing that you could really do to keep up with it unless you changed it out to a big bore kit. And that's why I changed this motorcycle out to a big bore kit. Zippers Hot 95 kit makes 100 horsepower, 103 foot-pounds of torque on a little light Road King like this, because these bikes used to weigh a lot less than the newer models. It allows you to keep up with the new motorcycles and be able to keep your old motorcycle that most of us have that are you can pick up for a little or nothing, or you already have them and they're paid off. With a big bore kit, you can now have modern power with an old school looking bike. So that is why I have the big bore kit on this motorcycle. Now fast forward to 2024 with the new Milwaukee 8-117s that are making around 98 horsepower and 117, 115 foot-pounds of torque. More power, way more power than they did have in the past. More power than they had just a year ago with the 107s and the 114s. So with that much more power that they're making, why would someone want to change out a brand new motorcycle, a 2024, and put a big bore kit on it? I could tell you about the benefits of being two up. I can tell you about the benefits of not downshifting when passing or going up a big mountain. But to be 100% honest with you, it's just because it's fun. It's exciting. I love the rush that I get from rolling on that big V-twin and holding on in that throttle. All that torque, that massive amount of torque just gets you moving. It's fun. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you a new build on the new 2024 Harley-Davidson Road Glide. Now this bike had a Screaming Eagle Stage 2 kit in it, and I rode that with it for a while, but I always knew that I was gonna go to Zippers Performance from day one when I picked this bike up. All my motorcycles have Zippers Performance parts on it, and this bike wasn't gonna be any different. So hopefully you enjoy this video series where we're building the new 2024 Harley-Davidson Road Glide, which I call Toro. That's bull in Spanish. It is a beautiful day today. And if it's your first time coming to the channel, my name is Tall, and this is YouTube channel Traveling Tall, and we are going to be talking about Harley-Davidson Performance. Everybody's asking me, hey, when are you going to take the bike to Zippers? Well, I took the bike to Zippers. The bike is here. I'm picking the bike up. So I'm going to be showing you the parts list. I'm going to be showing you the dyno sheet. I'm going to be showing you the motorcycle. I'm going to be doing the first ride, and I am going to take this motorcycle to the drag track and make some drag passes for you. Stick around, hit that subscribe button, that notification bell to be notified when those videos come up. I possibly can't put all that in one video, but this is going to be a really good series. Let's roll the intro and I'll see you inside.
Back down like a mob mule, roads clear, tank full, kick back with my feet up. I twist back and I speed up, left lane, pipes full, move fast but it's got more. Clear skies. Thank you, Lord, I'm gliding. Perfect day for riding. 500 in front of me and I'm right here where I want to be. It's a beautiful day and I thank God for it all. I'm traveling tall.
All right, guys, so we're here at Zippers. Let's see if we can go find Adam and see what he has for this new 24 Road Glide. So there you are. This is where you're hiding.
Just playing with the new motorcycle.
Look at this thing.
Well, it is the other bike, but it's a good-looking bike. I really do like it.
So what you been up to?
This motorcycle ran very good when you brought it here. Just want to make that statement. These 117s, you had a Stage 2 Screaming Eagle kit on it. It was very impressive what this thing did stock. We have now elevated it to the next level.
The next level. I love hearing that.
I would say maybe a couple of levels, to be quite honest with you.
Next level. If the next level had it upstairs, it would be that one.
This is substantially more power than what you had in your Street Glide as a 124 several years ago.
And this is the new 2024 Milwaukee 8 Gen 2.
Yeah, we call it a Gen 2 because there's so many things that are different about it.
Yeah. Most people call bikes with liquid cooled heads wet heads. I've been hearing people calling them center cooled heads.
I think it's because of the cooling system is compacted down into the center.
Okay.
You know, it used to be from 2014 forward, you could get a water-cooled head.
Right.
All of the Ultra Limiteds had water-cooled, and they were called twin-cooled.
Yeah.
And they actually had two little radiators that were mounted in the lowers.
Yeah.
And you couldn't take the lowers off, and it was all, you know, it was a wonderful system, and it was amazing how well it maintained temperature throughout the riding.
But this is different.
This is different. This is a much more modern and upgraded system, and it's been condensed down into a center radiator, which everyone that I've talked to that knows Harleys, they're actually surprised to hear that there's a radiator on this.
Oh,
They did such a good job of hiding it that it's just not out there and in your face like a lot of other motorcycles.
What do you got planned right now? What are we going to do?
All right. So we've done a typical top-end build on this, and I'd like to walk you through kind of roughly what we've done here.
Everything that he's going to show you or we're going to talk about, well, most of the things, is just made beyond that door over there. So instead of just showing you a bunch of boxes about this is that and that's that, let's just show you what's going on there and where it's made at. Right here in the United States, in the heart of Elk Ridge, Maryland, right?
Absolutely. All right, Tal, let's go check out the camshaft department and where we're actually making the redshift cams that are in your motorcycles.
Sounds good. Oh, so here they are.
Absolutely. So, Tal, this is Zach. He's running our Landis 3L. This is our high-end automotive camshaft grinder. These are where all the redshift cams are ground. So you can hear right now the machine's running. He's grinding cams. You can't really see in there because it has an enormous amount of coolant. But this is pretty much the top-of-the-line equipment you can have for camshaft manufacturing.
What's he doing now? What are these?
Okay, so he's actually grinding twin cams. So these are 647s, which is, I guess we're going probably like a 120 or a 124 twin cam build.
Wow, okay.
So we have all different size cams for different applications.
But this is the one that's in my bike.
Yeah, so in your motorcycle, we're running the 552 redshift cam.
552, guys. Redshift cam.
And this is the same cam that you ran in your Gen 1 Stage 3 muscle kit. So, you know, once we go into the cylinder heads, this cam is going to work in Gen 1 or Gen 2. You know, we may come out with some new big lift grinds for Gen 2, but to be quite honest with you, what we have works really well with Gen 1 and Gen 2.
And this was made right here.
Right here on this machine.
Right here. Cool. Redshift cams. And guys, made right here, engineered right there. He's the engineer, senior developer for the Redshift cams, 552.
I think we should go over to the cylinder department now and see where your big bore cylinders are being made. Tal, this is our Sunin SV30. This is where we do all of our cylinder honing. So for your motorcycle, we have a 4 1/4 bore, so it's a 128.
These, can I touch these?
Yeah. So this is actually a factory Gen 2 cylinder. It's very similar to a Gen 1, but there are some changes to it. So you cannot take a Gen 1 big bore kit and just drop it onto a Gen 2.
Now, why is that?
It's because Harley has changed the throttle body and manifold, and they tuck in a lot tighter now, and there are clearance cuts on the cylinders that do not work. There's a lot of similarities between the two, but you just can't take the early ones and put it over. So we're having to redevelop some of what we do on the cylinders.
Gen 2, and you just brought over a Gen 1.
Yeah, this is a Gen 1 Milwaukee 8. So there's a lot of similarities between the two of these. There's just some variance in the cylinder fins and how everything fits on the motorcycle. We have to make some additional modifications to a cylinder for it to be used on a Gen 2.
Guys, if y'all can kind of
Yeah.
see where it's lopped off right there, and that one's not. And that is to make room for the way the manifold is on the Gen 2 versus the Gen 1.
Yeah, you know what, it looks to me like what Harley has done is they've attempted to move the throttle body a lot further inboard to give us a lot more knee and leg clearance.
Now, a Gen 2, in theory, should be able to fit on a Gen 1.
Yes, that is
But
correct.
a Gen 1 won't fit on a Gen 2, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Using the current parts, you are correct.
we just showed you the cam. These are the cylinders. Are they still 4 1/4?
Yes. So this is a 4 1/4 bore
Uh-huh.
by 4.5 inch stroke. So that gives you a 128.
So you guys, you just heard it. It's a 128.
You know, the beauty of this is we're trying to set our cylinder heads so that the compression of all of our existing stocked pistons are going to work, because there's so many similarities between the two. We already have pistons ready to go and we have cylinders modified. And the good thing is, by not changing it too much, you know, we have different bore sizes, we have oversizes, we have multiple different compression heights at this, or I'm sorry, compression levels at this, you know, the same bore size.
And it's been tested.
It's all been tested in
Thousands of miles.
Right.
Yeah.
There's tens of thousands of these out there in the field.
I know I've at least put 50 on mine, so yeah.
So a lot of our durability work carries over from Gen 1.
A lot of people, when they think of big bore kits, I know I used to, I think that I would take my old cylinders off, send them into a place, and then they just bore them out bigger.
It is not the case anymore.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. They're just not leaving an enormous amount of material left to cut away.
Okay.
You know, like, I'll give you the perfect example. It's not a touring motorcycle, but if you look back at the Sportster lineup, they had 883s and 1200s.
Right.
Right? If you picked up the 883 cylinders, because the liner was so much smaller inside, because it effectively was the same cylinder,
Yeah.
I think we measured it, and it's 8 pounds of cast iron difference between an 883 and a 1200.
Wow.
Just by boring it.
Wow.
There's no more material. They're not leaving 8 pounds on these.
No.
These motorcycles are so finely tuned,
Yeah.
there's just nothing left. So what we have learned is there's really no reason for us to be boring stock cylinders, because you're just making it way, way too thin down here at the spigot.
A whole reason why going with the 128, a thicker spigot wall. If you don't know what that is, that's this. This is the spigot wall. You go with 130s, this gets thinner. You go with 135s, this gets thinner. When this gets thinner, the heat does not dissipate as much, and this is more fragile when it gets thinner. If it's more fragile when it gets thinner, when it gets hot, this is more prone to crack or to break. That's why having a 128 with thicker spigots is, in my opinion, is a benefit, because you have the thicker spigots. Not to say that you guys are not going to go bigger,
Right.
because I know you're going to go bigger sooner or
Yeah.
later, but
Right.
having a 128 with the thicker spigots is definitely a better design than having the thinner ones.
It just has a higher safety factor. Is
Yeah.
really what it boils down to. And again, you know, if we're making big numbers with that, you know, with this bore size and this spigot, that's wonderful, because
Right.
that means you're going to have the numbers to pass guys with bigger cylinders, but you're going to have more material to have more reliability. And I understand, you know, if you're racing, there are times when you don't care about that reliability,
Right.
and you want something that is, you know, in that set to kill mindset, where you're going to take it apart two or three times a year, and these are replaceable.
Yeah. Then you have people like me
But-
that has that set to kill mindset, that wants to get out there and run them at the red light, and run them on the drag strip, and then put a full tank of gas in it and get 300 miles down the road.
You want to do everything, and that's
I want to do it all.
and that's good. That's actually what this kit is meant for, is to be able to allow you to do everything.
Is that a dish? Would that be just like a
So
pocket?
those are clearance pockets for the valves.
Okay.
That particular piston has a very slight dish to it. We have, I think, slight dished, a flat top, and then a piston with a bit of a dome to it as well. And this is what's going to set the compression of the engine, is knowing the volume of your cylinder head and knowing the amount of change in that dish.
We've seen the cam, we've seen the cylinders. You want to go see the cylinder heads?
Yeah, let's go look at the new cylinder heads. All right, so we are standing at our flow bench, and I wanted to show you a couple of changes between the 23s and the 24s. You know, why do we call this Gen 1 and Gen 2? Well, there are actually some pretty big changes on the induction side. And again, I was told this was all learned from the king of the baggers. So it's the bagger racing that has evolved and literally come down into the production motorcycles. All of the Gen 1 Milwaukee 8s, this is the manifold. They had a plastic manifold. They've actually gone back now. It's an aluminum manifold. And I know why. These are very commonly used in cars, automotive. Plastics are always used. But the problem is on an air-cooled V-twin, it makes a lot of heat. So these have become prone to shrinking over time, and then you could develop a little bit of an air leak. We like to replace these with a cast item just out of reliability.
That's what I was going to say. Even most kits now, I mean, even Harley-Davidson will sell the aftermarket, well, not the aftermarket, Screaming Eagle version of this cast.
Yes.
So now they're not plastic anymore.
No, they're actually coming as a very nice cast aluminum piece. You can see the difference in the thickness as far as where the throttle body actually mounts, and you can see how it's tucked the throttle body closer in to the cylinders.
This is, wait a minute, it's a lot shorter too.
Yeah, and again, this is why the cylinders have changed. Pretty much the whole top end has some level of variance to accommodate this new induction system. One thing that you'll notice immediately on the cylinder heads, the Gen 1 has a round intake port, and the Gen 2 has this ovalized intake port, and you see it in the manifold as well. Right. It's a very different. So there is no putting a Gen 1 head or Gen 1 manifold over onto a Gen 2 or vice versa, because these are just very different. And what you'll notice is Gen 1 actually has a round intake port, and Gen 2 has this ovalized port. There's a lot of reasons why they've done this, but what I like about it is if you look at Gen 1, there's really not a lot of material here to make it bigger, but they left a lot of meat on this one. This is why Screaming Eagle already has much larger cast and a CNC manifold that uses a significantly larger runner diameter. So once you port this, it becomes significantly bigger than the Gen 1 manifold. So we're standing here at the flow bench because on your motorcycle you have the new Gen 2 cylinder heads, and we have redeveloped our Stage 2s and Stage 3 cylinder heads. This is all still in process. We do not have these available for sale, but it is coming very soon. We have run all of these through the flow bench, and we've made tremendous gains over stock. I'll say that the Gen 2 head over a Gen 1 head has pretty substantial gains as well.
Stock versus stock.
Stock versus stock. This new cylinder head is actually very good. You put a bolt-in cam on this thing and it's making huge torque and power.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen that, watch that video of the new Redshift 528 cam on their new 2024 Road Glide. And we took it to the drag strip and it made some good numbers too. So watch that video.
With yours, you know, we have a Stage 2 and a Stage 3 cylinder head. I'm not going to say what's on your motorcycle because I think that's going to be a surprise down the road, but it is a modified cylinder head. It's flowing a lot more than stock. One of the ways you can identify a Gen 2 versus a Gen 1 cylinder head is based off of the D-shaped or the ovalized intake port, and then the combustion chamber. We should talk about this for a second. So if you can pick up that Gen 1 head, so notice how this has circles and then straight lines, and this is like a figure 8. Yeah. Well, what they've done here is very smart. Again, this is all racing stuff that they've learned. They have done a significant amount of valve deshrouding in the cylinder head. And what that means is if you were to open the valve up, they've moved the material so it's not so close to the valve. So if you can envision the air coming down and around a valve, if it's up against a wall, it's not going to flow very well. So the inside of the chamber matters a lot, and they've made a significant change here. It gives us a lot more squish band which is very good. That'll help improve the combustion. It'll help improve or actually reduce the emissions, and it flows more and makes more power. It seems like a relatively subtle change between the two of these. This is actually pretty superior in a lot of ways. And I've always said that Harley has created a very unique cylinder head here. And if you didn't understand the application and you just looked at the numbers, you would think they did a lot of things wrong. But I stand with what they did here because, you know, these are heavy motorcycles.
Yeah.
You know, generally when you think of 4-valve, you think of high RPM, high revving, no torque, but massive power at the top end. That's not what this is developed for. I mean, even a stock motorcycle has grunt from down low. The way it's laid out, we can really boost the torque and horsepower as well.
This is the M8, which is air-cooled, air oil cooled.
Okay, so on a Gen 1 Milwaukee 8, it was either called air oil cooled or air water cooled. And the air water was the twin cooled. The vast majority of them out there are air oil.
And this is where the oil goes in here.
Correct. So you actually have
Show you that.
a substantially larger oil pump on the air oil cooled engines. And it's pumping additional pressure through the cylinder heads and then back to the oil tank. And it's pulling a substantial amount of heat out of the head.
Right.
Now, oil does not pull it out as efficiently, does not pull the heat out as efficiently as typical automotive style coolant.
Right.
So the twin cooled was always the better of the two in that sense as far as how they worked. So Gen 2 Milwaukee 8, all of them are water cooled. So they all have an automotive style coolant. They've completely redone how the lines go into it. And it looks to me like they're flowing a substantial more amount of coolant through this. So I would expect this engine to work really well out in the heat as far as just maintaining a good solid temperature.
Well, and the thing is, if you think about motor oil, the higher the heat, the less viscosity it has, right?
Right.
So the less it's going to be able to keep the heads and stuff cooled, everything it comes into. And I would say the coolant probably be a little bit more stable or high heats.
You know, the big problem I had, you're exactly right. Like, this is going to shed heat faster. The coolant is a lot thinner, it's a lot slipperier,
Right.
And it's going to transfer the heat more efficiently than the oil does. Now, the oil does a very good job. I mean, again, if you go back to the twin cams and air-cooled, it's a huge difference in cylinder head temperature running down the road. But if there were a fundamental flaw with this, you're taking the heat from the cylinder heads and you're putting it into your oil.
Right.
Well, what happens if you get stuck in traffic for a very long time?
Yeah.
Now you're raising all of your engine oil temperature up as well. And again, it's going to go up if you're sitting in traffic.
Right.
But if you're pumping it through the heads, it's going to continue to go up.
True.
So there is a point where when you go water cooled on the head, you're actually protecting the oil as well.
Right.
So I believe this is hands down the superior way of doing it, is keeping the cooling system separate from the oiling system. So, because oiling is about lubrication,
Yeah.
and it's about the hydraulic functions inside the motor.
So guys, that 2024, it's a totally different animal. It is, you know, it has a bunch of similarities as the 23 and previous models, but the 24, there's some really cool stuff that Harley-Davidson has done. And if you've ever ridden one of those bikes, it just feels so much different than the previous year models. And I cannot wait to try out this new big bore kit on this bike.
More power. It's going to be more fun. There's no doubt about that.
More power equals more fun. I agree with you. And you guys are going to see it all and experience it all. We have another video coming soon of the new 2024 Road Glide build. I haven't made a name for it yet. I have to ride it and then I'll make a name after I ride it with so much power.
It's got to have a little power before you name it. You can't name it stock.
Yeah, you can't name it stock. So again, like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video. Thanks again, Adam.
Thank you.
All right, guys, don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. Keep gliding. Always have a blessed day.